G'day everyone, it's me, the anti-theocrat, back with another one. I thought I'd put out some sort of good newsy stuff. The fact that there are people out there who seem to give a shit about men and what they're doing, and I don't know. Look, I'm going to start with a sign of why it makes me happy to find people who really seem to have an intent to help men. And it's because of things like this. This is supposed to be the go-to support line for men in crisis. Men's Line Australia. You can call that number if you are game. But, yeah, it looks very pretty on the front page, and you're not meant to question this. This is a service that's put up by absolutely everybody who offers a service, right? Whenever I show you an ABC page about depression, anxiety, men's rights, whatever in the hell else it'll be, they will suggest Men's Line as a go-to place for men. And look, it's got a telephone and online counselling for men with concerns and stuff. They cover depression, anger and stress. Yeah, all sorts of wonderful things. They look great on the face of it. The problem is, Men's Line is actually run by a feminist organisation. A feminist organisation stands behind Men's Line, and they've gone to a lot of lengths these days to hide that attachment to feminism, to a man-hating feminist organisation, because the organisation behind them is very much one of those that's man-hating. So, where do we find this information? I've been researching services in Australia for, I don't know, a year, maybe 2 years now. I've slowed down on my work on that because I just don't have anywhere that I'm happy to publish it. I was meant to be publishing it to a men's rights organisation's website, but it seems to have turned into a wiki, and I can't work out exactly how I'm going to publish it to the wiki. So, that aside, I'm not giving up on this work. I just want to get it right and have it available, and then work out where the hell to publish it. Maybe one of these organisations that we're looking at will find room for it. Maybe the one that I'm working with will work out a website. I don't know. We'll see. In any case, Men's Line is one of the ones that I've had a look at, and it is things like this during my research that make me wary of the services on offer, and I note these things in my research. The About Us, which should tell us something about the organisation, in fact starts with About Changing for Good. Changing for Good is a men's behaviour changing program that seeks to maintain behaviours learned during a traditional behaviour changing program. Now, if you don't know what a behaviour changing program is, it's the assumption that men are bad and need to be made more like women. It's just a feminist program that basically asserts that masculinity is toxic and we need to change it. Or introduce or reintroduce the key components of behaviours of sustained behaviour change. We work with men to help them recognise their abusive behaviours and end their use of violence. So you get that idea, don't you? We work with men. Full stop. Men. This is men, apparently men who are having mental health problems or have been abused or whatever else they can call this line. Yet here it is. All men are abusive and violent. There's no... where do you see the victims service here or anything else? I'll tell you what, I went down this page earlier today, and where do you see it? It is basically the About, where it should tell us something about this service. All it tells us is that men are abusive and violent, and they need changing. So I wouldn't recommend calling Men's Line Australia at all. Now, I could read you through this, but there's no point. What it is feminist mantra that men are evil and need changing. You get down here and, you know, family members, partners. You can go through this entire document and it reads like this. family members, partners, ex-partners of men who have used violence, and it's about men and violence. It's always about men and violence. Where do you see anything about supporting men who have been violated? You don't. This is a feminist-run, biased service. So, seeing as it's feminist-run and biased, I thought I'd drag us down to one more page about this service before we moved on, because this is why my research has taken so long. I tried to get a little bit of an in-depth view of these organisations from the material that they release. I'm not going to the services and asking them. I don't have that much money to spare or time to spare. So what I'm doing is going to their online information or any other information I can find about them and learning from what they themselves have published about the services they offer. So let's have a look at this, shall we? This is what a feminist-run organisation that sees men as toxic and in need of change says about manhood. 14 quotes about manhood that still work. Ultimate vulnerability, that's manly, by some cage fighter. I've failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. The heart of a man is very much like the sea. It has its storms, it has its tides, and its depths, and its pearls too. Vincent van Gogh. That man cut off his ear, mind you. Oh, shish to you too. That's my phone alarm. Speaking to me in Mandarin. The heart of man is very much like, oh, right, life is so damn short, for fuck's sake. Just do what makes you happy. Bill Murray. That's the first one that wasn't... Oh, actually, it's not even. Each and every one of these so far, the 4 that we've read, is about manning up and being strong. So, feminists see men as toxic and horrible, yet what they want us to be is manly men. That's the message I'm getting here. At every one of these is about, we have our downs, but, you know, man up, be strong, get on with life. Try not to become a man of success, but rather try to become a man of value. Now, again, this is about being a strong man, doing something with your life. This is exactly the sort of thing I actually believe men are about. Yet, we have to change for good, because apparently what we are is toxic, because we should be strong and reliable and reliant and not overly reliant, sorry. These are things that I think are valuable in men and that men in general actually do. I think even your male feminist, once he manages to get the route that he's crawling up the arse of women to get, he will settle in to being her strong manly figure. Because that's what he wants to be. He knows he's a pussy now, but he wants to be someone's strong man. I don't actually have a lot of problems with this. I'm not anti-gynocentrism. I am about understanding gynocentrism and its effect on us. I understand that it exists. I'm extremely gynocentric myself. We have to understand gynocentrism. We have to be able to deal with gynocentrism and understand where we should draw the lines with our gynocentrism. That's the truth of the thing. But all of this is about men being, you know, these strong people, strong toxic people. This is feminism at its absolute best. It just can't make up its fucking mind the message it's sending the world. So anyway, I want to put this out because this is an example of an extremely bad service calling itself a men's service and being promoted by our federal government here in Australia as the primary service to go to for men. It is an extremely bad idea to go to Men's Line for anything. So, on my desk when I was putting this together was a group called MISA. Now, I don't know anything about MISA. They seem to be mainly a counselling service, and they seem to have a genuine concern for men. And I sort of put them on a questionable stance, not from what I could find in most of their website, but because, again, MISA workshops for perpetrators of domestic violence. It's the only thing they offer. The only service they offer is men as perpetrators. Where's the men as victims workshop? This is their one and only workshop being expressed on their website. That's it. That's the whole thing. This is their workshops. Courses and workshops. They've got a perpetrators of domestic violence, of family violence and anger management. That's behaviour changing. It says facilitates behaviour change. Now, everywhere else in this website, this looks like a perfectly fine support service for men. But how are you supposed to take it seriously when the one and only workshop they have says, stop hurting your loved ones, manage your explosions, learn a way to express yourself, create a better way of life for your partner and yourself, because you're an abuser, you bastard. Now come and help us to change you. I can't recommend MISA as a support service for men because it did this. It's one and only course. There's no victims groups or anything else being run by this group. They're one and only. Well, I think they might run some sort of groups. They do mediations, which means essentially they are right up telling men that they need their behaviour overseen. So maybe they don't. The only workshop they run is behaviour changing. I can't recommend MISA. I would put them on a be very wary list. There is nothing, and this is something that's really changed since I started doing my research. Any information about these groups, who funds them, where they're run from, is gone. They used to say they were run by this organisation or that organisation or another. You can't find that information anymore. It's not out there. You could go to their business and community partners and have a look, and it doesn't look too bad on the face of it, but I'm telling you now, if this was feminist run, you wouldn't know. You don't know if Men's Line is. It is so well hidden. As I said, the only thing on their about page is behaviour changing workshops. Yet they are a feminist run organisation. So, I'll move on from MISA. What do we got? livingwell.org.au. Now, I actually found this a very interesting site. I was concerned because the page that I found when I was searching was trying to tell us what it was to be a man. And I don't think it's down to a website or anyone else to define what a man is. I think it is down to a man, an individual man, to define what he is as a man. And I think when you start to try and define what a man is, you're undermining the men who may not fit in your definitions. But on the other hand, I didn't find what they'd written overly demanding of men. And I've got to say that. I did have a worry that they describe gender as men and women and non-binary. Because if this is about men, then why are we discussing non-binary? Why are we? Why are we discussing women? And again, I found a problem. I found a fucking problem with Living Well. Now maybe, because this is different from the other ones. In this, there doesn't seem to be any behaviour changing program being forced on men, and there are other programs and things you can do. I don't recommend their wellbeing assessments, just one of those, internet things that'll prove that you're ill or not. I came up in the middle. Apparently I am middle line, a borderline psychotic maybe, I don't know. Excuse the seat squeaking. But yes, I found something of concern, and maybe it is just because if you don't crawl to these people, they will come after you and try and tear you down, because that's what happens to anything for men. But why? Why did there need to be a headline, a topic, support for women and women's services on Living Well, which is for men? I'm seriously concerned that they felt the need to have Living Well acknowledges and gains the gains and challenges of the women's movements, and the one that really sticks with me, and feminist action, because fuck the feminists. The feminists are the ones who would tear this website down probably if it didn't have this clause written into the website. So fuck feminists. But okay, we respect women and the women's movement. That's not too hard. But why did it have to be here? Nothing about a website for men says we hate women. That's like saying it's okay to be white is racist against black people. Why? Where did it say black people? Where? Where does it's okay to be white say black people? That's like saying black empowerment means you fucking hate white people. Where does it say white people? I'm thinking of doing a t-shirt in black that says white empowerment on it. And in black, on a black shirt, says black empowerment. Just to get people to freak out at my shirt. And then when I point out that it actually says black empowerment as well, just to fuck them off. I'm a bit like that with my shirts. I design my own, and I really do go for the heart. I go for the balls, I think, is the way to describe that. Anyway, feminist action made possible in relation to discussing of awareness of sexual violence perpetrated against men, women, and children. No feminist helped you talk about perpetration against men. It is true that maybe women did that. It is not true that either the women's movement or feminist action made this possible. There are plenty of MRA women, and they may have played a part. Living Well is supportive and respectful of women and women's services, and is committed to ending all forms of gender-based violence. And this, I think, is why they have to have this here. Because if they don't acknowledge the women's services, they'll have themselves ripped a new one. I also worry about the need for any fucking mention of diversity, because it just stinks of social justice. And I don't give a flying fuck for social justice anymore. And when you think you need to mention diversity, it also stinks of the bigotry of low expectations. I mean, you have to single out Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Why? Are they not men and women? Do they not have similar problems to men and women elsewhere in the world? Seriously, why do you have to crawl up everyone's arse individually? I'd like to know why you haven't crawled up mine. You've gone to all this effort to talk about diversity, but the only diversity I see here is Aboriginal and Torres Strait, and, mentions of sex, gender, race, ethnicity. This is quite a broad scope of things, isn't it? Where the fuck is the honkies, eh? I want Living Well to acknowledge the honkies. The fucking whiteys like me. Then acknowledge everyone else individually, seeing as you've taken the effort. I do not see the reason to do this sort of ass-kissing, ever. I've never done it myself. I have run meetings for organisations where I refused to do a welcome to fucking country. That shit started as a joke by Ernie Dingo on a comedy program in the 1980s. And I fucking will not bow to begging other people to use the land I was born in. Go fuck yourself. But, yes, diversity concerns me. But I understand you have to do these things these days. No, I fucking never will. So, could I support Living Well? At this point, I would put them on a take them how you find them basis. I would say that most of the material in this website is positive. Most of this serves men. I just have a problem with those two clauses in the website that I found. And I found them without too much searching. So maybe there's something else I'd object to yet. One of the things that gets me about these servers is how often this is the topic at hand. And I wonder if these organisations only got off the ground and only got their headway because of the child sexual abuse inquiries into churches and other such organisations running orphanages and what have you. You know the thing, the priests. But yeah, I do wonder if that's where these things get their kick-off. I do note down here that their donation partners, the Australian government, the Queensland government, something with a flag, but I'm guessing that might be associated with Anglicare. Oh no, I think they just have the... It's got too many colours, doesn't it? I don't know. I think they just have the rainbow flag because, again, it's a group you've got to crawl up the arse of. And Anglicare. I'm sorry, but when you talk to me about Anglicare being behind you, you're talking about another bigoted group that hates men. Most of the Anglicare services are very open about the fact that the only services they run for men are behaviour changing. I wouldn't trust Anglicare as far as I could throw them. And my experience of Anglicare is it's largely run by women. And if that's the information I find about them, about their services on the websites, I don't expect to walk into a place that's been run by women and automatically get better service. I just don't. Can I recommend Living Well? I can recommend you give them a try. And if my database was up, it was meant to become an interactive service where you could enter information about your dealings with these organisations and rate them. So it wouldn't be based on me alone telling you that these websites were workable. The idea was to create something where you could tell other people your experiences and rate the service in relation to your dealings with them. My assessment was only the first assessment to get things kicked off. And I'm showing you here how I was doing this assessment. I would put Living Well as a positive place for men to try at this point. Okay, I actually opened up a page on this. What did I open up? That was that one. Righto, so let's have a look here. These are actually groups that are working with and for men, but I have a problem with 1 in 6. I don't think... This is a website that seems to be just about sexual abuse of men. 1 in 6 figure, I guess, is related to that, because we go to the next one. It's 1 in 3 campaign, where we're talking about just family violence, so just domestic violence, and then the number is, twice as high. But I think this organisation has its roots in the US, and yeah, I think it's also one of those services that seems to have started around the investigations into abuse by priests and so forth. I've got no problem with that existing. I just think we need some broader ranging support groups out there for men, and they are lacking. They're lacking on the ground everywhere. So yes, I would say if you needed to, they run weekly chat-based support groups. They do have it in Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, so I'm guessing that they run them here in Australia. This is a very Australian-based website for some reason, or just the bits I looked at. So I would say 1 in 6, if you've been sexually abused, definitely a place for men. 1 in 3, very, very, very positive towards men. And I would even debate 1 in 3, but 1 in 3 is the number that they've come up with. I think it could be higher. I myself have not reported violence in domestic situations, and there's no official reporting of that anywhere, even though I've talked about it online and on my videos. So yeah, I've got a 4-year-old making noise. Sorry, I'm trying to get him to be quiet. Yeah, so if you really want some people to go to, 1 in 3 seems like a really fair place to start. The other one I recommend, and I've mentioned them before, is Dads in Distress. You will find guys who have been in a situation and will talk to you. I know that their focus is on dads, which means dads who are married and having problems, or dads who are divorced and having problems, but dads. But I've had a nice chat with them just to find out more about them, because I really wanted to know. They were the only, in my early research, because I've done a first draft of my research. I'm working through the second draft. It's a much more intense look at the services, and it's taking its time because I'm working on my own. Dads in Distress came up as a positive, and that was something really strange because there were no other positives to speak of. The services for men essentially are homeless shelters and drug and alcohol addiction services. If you're just in general trouble, or you want to take your kids out of the home because the missus has beaten you or something, or in a drunken rage or whatever, there is nothing out there for you at all as a man in Australia. I think there's a shelter started up in Queensland. I don't know how that's going, but I'm pretty sure it's still okay. I hear from them occasionally. But, you know, one shelter in central Queensland is not going to save the men of Australia. It's why I would like to put together a fund with a different plan, to not actually have shelters, but to be able to offer funding for men to book and help them out with shelter if they need it. But anyway, that's a plan I have discussed online, and I'm having trouble getting anyone excited enough to lend me $50 towards it. If I could start, if I could raise $500,000 or something, I would immediately organise to set up an organisation that would support men across Australia, men in need of a place to go to shelter them and their kids should they need it, without having to start a shelter. I could do that. I have a plan. Anyway, forget my plan. If you want to send me some money, that's your business. Just trust me, if you send it for that, it'll go to good use. I'll find something for it, even if my plan doesn't come about. I will support some service for men. If you just want to pay me subs, that'd be good. $1 would be great. Look, I don't need the subs. It'd be nice to excuse this work I put in to my wife, but who cares? She can just suffer with it. Go to work and earn me my money, please, wench. Shit, I hope she never watches this video. The other partner, she'd have a laugh, but yeah. Anyway, I would recommend 1 in 3. I actually put out word that I needed some information about books through another source, and she went to 1 in 3. I actually contacted Bettina Ardet. She went to the people at 1 in 3, and they found me some books and some references that I could give our local librarian to give to someone who seems to be researching, I don't know the whole story, she seems to be researching domestic violence, but the books she has have the feminist bias touch to them. And the librarian knew there was another side to this story, so she wanted something else and asked me to recommend something. 1 in 3 came through for us. So I could recommend 1 in 3 these days. 1 in 3 and Dads in Distress. The only 2 organisations so far that I have found that offer a service in Australia for men. But how limited those things are. Well, they are just limited. That's it. All I can tell you is there are services, but they are extremely limited in what they can offer. 1 shelter in North Queensland for men truly in distress. That's what we've got. I can't remember its name. I'm sure you can find it. Doesn't matter. Look, I'm going to leave it here, but I wanted to show that, you know, there are, even though I've only got 2 of them up here, there are groups that are specifically for men, dealing with men's issues, and not pandering to other organisations and other groups to try and, I don't know, make them feel they're not being imposed on. I don't know why a support group for men should make women feel that they're being oppressed, but apparently the feminists believe that's the way it is. Well, if that's the case, then I believe all the feminist-run services for women are oppressing me, so what's the big deal? We can all be oppressed together. Anyway, I'm going to go. I will link these things in the bottom as usual. You can do your own assessments. I'm hoping one day I will publish my research and we can get something kicked off. The point being, not so much to attack organisations that don't deal with men or are very negative towards men, because negative towards men, oh fuck, is there a lot of those. It's not to attack them, but it's to try and improve the way the services are run, to essentially put a judgment on them that people who've tried to use them can assess them and shame them into doing better, if that's what it means. Maybe to get our politicians to stand up and take note that these services are not doing a good job of what they're meant to be doing, is protecting people. And most of all, to tell men where to find services that work for them. That would be the best thing to get out of it. I'm in many forums online where I see men post, "Where can I get help?" All too often. There's almost a weekly basis some guy puts up his hand and says, "Where can I get help for this thing?" And there's very little most of us can offer. It'd be nice to change that. Or live in a world where we don't need it. Wouldn't that be lovely? Anyway, I have been the Anti-Theocrat. I will see you in the next one. I hope this was as positive as it sounds, that there are actually organisations, people, groups starting to talk to men and address men, not as, you know, as this does, or as or living well with its crawling up the arse of women and diversity, because apparently dealing with men is not enough. And hopefully we can change these things. I'd like a better future. Isn't that what we're all working for? A better future. Some of us are working for a better future by ripping other people apart. I'm just looking for a better future that offers everyone a helping hand when they need it. Could be a slight difference here. See you all in the next one.